Lucky Charms and Cheerios Part 2. How could they make people sick? Dry breakfast cereal is allegedly making people, thousands of people, sick in the USA, as I mentioned last week. This week, I put on my food scientist hat to dive into the possible causes. In an attempt to keep this brief, what follows is a not at all in-depth discussion of 6 possible causes. 1. There is no causal link at all between the cereals and the illnesses. The illnesses could be caused by something other than the cereal, but since so many people eat these cereals, they are blaming the cereal. For example, one person who posted on an online illness reporting site didn't decide that her illness was caused by breakfast cereal until she heard about other people getting sick. And she said, reporting nausea and vomiting from a double pack of Honey Nut Cheerios. I'm currently pregnant, so I thought nothing of it at first, but it traces back to the last few times I had this cereal. 2. There is a microbiological problem with the cereal. Viable cells of bacteria or fungus could be present in the cereal pieces, although this is unlikely. Lucky Charms and Cheerios are both made using a process called extrusion, followed by drying or baking. Extrusion and baking will reliably kill all vegetative bacterial cells, molds and viruses, although not necessarily the spores of bacteria or mold. For live bacteria or mold pathogens to be present at infective numbers, that's the level enough to make you sick, the manufacturer would have had to hold the extruded or damp cereal for more than 4 hours before baking it. Even then, you'd need to start with severely contaminated material for enough growth to occur. Post-baking contamination is possible, but this would require pretty severe mishandling to result in infective doses of bacteria, such as salmonella, on the cereal. Contamination with a foodborne virus is more likely. The foodborne virus norovirus is one of the most infective agents known to man, and just a few viral particles can cause illness. In 2011, for example, a single source of contamination, possibly one infected food handler, caused 11,000 norovirus illnesses in Europe. Enteric viruses can survive on low moisture foods, including cornflakes, for at least 4 weeks. So, norovirus contamination is possible, noting that the contamination would have to occur after baking. It's also worth noting that it is extremely difficult to isolate viral particles from foods. This means it's going to be very difficult to find the smoking gun if a foodborne virus like norovirus was the cause. 3. There are microbiological problems with the marshmallow pieces. Lucky Charms contain small marshmallow pieces. The marshmallows could have a microbiological problem. However, this theory does not explain the links between the illnesses and Cheerios, which don't contain marshmallows. 4. There are natural toxins in the products. Natural toxins are produced by microorganisms such as bacteria, molds, and algae, or algae as you might say in some countries. In a cereal product, the most likely class of natural toxin is a mycotoxin because these can occur in grains like oats and corn. Both of the affected cereals, Lucky Charms and Cheerios, contain oats, making mycotoxin a good candidate. A bacterial toxin is less likely to be present than a mycotoxin, although the heat-stable Staphylococcus aureus toxin might be able to survive the baking process. This toxin causes nausea, vomiting, and stomach cramps within a few hours of eating contaminated food, which matches some of the victim's symptoms. For it to be present in the cereal, the unbaked product would need to have been wet enough for the bacteria to grow and make the toxin. And that seems pretty unlikely because the grains that are used to extrude cereal are usually fed into the extruder in a dryish sort of a format. 5. There are man-made chemical toxins in the products by accident. Lucky Charms contains 4 artificial colours, including 2 that have been linked to health problems by some groups. An accidental overuse of one of those colours might have caused problems for some consumers. Some food safety specialists have speculated that a change of source for one of the colours, or even a fraud problem with one of the colours, could cause a chemical contamination event. Interestingly, the maker of both products, General Mills, said in March that it was having problems acquiring ingredients and that it had to find new sources of some ingredients. And I'm about to read out a quote that was quoted in the New York Post. "We've adjusted formulations," said John Nudi, the company's president of North America Retail. "In some of our products, we've reformulated over 20 times year to date. Every time you make an ingredient change, you have to change the formulation." Fraudulent food colorants could definitely cause problems. There is a long-established history of poisonous and cancer-causing textile dyes being used illegally to colour spices, including paprika and turmeric. A fraud problem in one of the colorants would affect multiple batches of Lucky Charms, but doesn't explain why Cheerios are being linked to the outbreak, since they contain no artificial colours. Pesticide contamination of the oats used in both products could be a source of accidental chemical toxins, and this would also affect multiple batches of both products. However, I judge this scenario to be pretty unlikely because you'd need a seriously large overdose of pesticide within any given shipment of oats to cause acute symptoms like those that are being reported. And the final possible scenario, and this is all speculation, of course, but the final possible scenario is 6, deliberate contamination with a chemical or biological agent. This is a nasty scenario to consider, but one that the authorities are no doubt investigating right now. They will be asking, A, what type of contaminant could cause these symptoms? B, how much contaminant needs to be present to cause these symptoms? C, how could that amount be added to the products? That is, where in the production process would such an addition be possible? D, who would be able to perpetrate such adulteration during multiple production runs without being detected? In short, there are multiple possible ways for dry breakfast cereal to make people sick. The most probable scenario is post-baking contamination with norovirus or another foodborne enteric virus. Other possibilities cannot be ruled out, including the possibility that these cereals are not actually causing the illnesses at all. And as always, the email contains a list of sources. It also contains a link to an article from mashed.com, which contains a bunch of weird facts about Lucky Charms.